Good afternoon, everybody. I think we heard sort of a lengthy speech, and somebody said inside right now, I think lengthy speech is only the guy giving it is the one that likes it. But looking at that, the governor touted a lot of things that have gone on over the last 7 years. When you look at where he came in and when you look at today and you see some of the accomplishments that he has touted, we have the largest budget ever. I think another by $8 billion than before he got here. And you look at everything, flat funding for municipalities, 76% of districts get less than they got in fiscal year 10. There is still a lot of challenges that we have here. There was a few things that he talked about. He talked about in Horizon putting in some additional monies for the underserved. That's something we'll definitely look at because we always want to make sure that the underserved in the state of New Jersey, we take care of them. We'll look forward to working with Horizon to see what that looks like and what that is, the possibility of it. When he talked about the education funding formula that he has heard from the leaders of what he has been saying, I don't think he's heard what I've said. I've never said that the funding formula we have, SFRA, is unfair or is broken. It's been underfunded. Does it have things that it needs to be tweaked? Absolutely. But it's something that was deemed constitutional, and I think along those bases we can work. We don't have to take a long time. We've already started hearings, and we can work on tweaking that formula. What I find that is unfair is his fairness formula that actually doesn't take into account people with English as a second language, different economical means in certain different areas of the state. That becomes a problem. So I think that is something we can work together, but I'm willing to, look at everything. And as I said before, we've been looking in the assembly at every aspect. Nothing should be off limit, but let's see what works. Special education has been one of the things that we know it needs to be fixed because it was in a census base, not an enrollment base. We need to look at that. He actually hit us with something that I had not heard before. It was in reference to the lottery. This is something that obviously we need to get more details on it. In face, I'll say it this way. I'm not too sure. In the budget, $900 million normally goes to dedicated items that is under the lottery. It's constitutionally, there may be challenges for this. I see it, and I'm going to be blunt, I see it a little bit of smoke and mirrors to try and lower a payment. So I would have to see the details of any plan before I would say this is something that would be okay to do. There's a responsibility of where that money and winnings and what it pays out and what the value of that is. So there's a lot of questions we have during his speech. Again, he touted when he came in, there was this huge unfunded liability. There's still a huge unfunded liability because we're not funding everything to what it's supposed to be funding. Again, municipal aid, flat funded. Schools, flat funded. We have a lot of work to do, and I guess through the budget process, Assemblyman Schaer will actually sort of flush out all these issues, and we'll look at it and see what we can get accomplished and hopefully do the right thing. He keeps talking, it was a structural deficit when he got here, and there's been a balanced budget. Every governor has had a balanced budget. We do that at the end of the year. Again, I look forward to the process, and again, what this left me with a lot of questions, and hopefully we'll flush out some of the answers. Majority Leader Greenwald.
Thank you, Speaker. I think for us as a leadership team, we approach this budget like we have every other budget before us in the past. It's never our inclination to just reject ideas out of hand on a day like today. The devil will be in the details. But I think understanding some of the underlying problems that New Jersey faces is important as we address these problems to begin to have a better understanding of how we may work in a cooperative effort with the executive branch to get this done. For instance, New Jersey is the highest migrated from state in the nation. It's not just snowbirds that leave our state for 6 months and a day. What's most alarming to us is millennials are leaving New Jersey in record numbers. And when millennials leave, they leave permanently. They are not coming back. Over half of our students who graduate from high school, over half, 31,000 a year, are leaving New Jersey and going to another state for a college education. When they leave, very few percentage of them return home. New Jersey has the highest rate of millennials still living with their parents. Nearly 47% of young people between the ages of 18 and 34 are still living at home with mom and dad. That stress, that financial stress, will lead young people, young professionals, to look for opportunity outside of the state. 66% of our young kids that are graduating from college have $31,000 a year or more, or $31,000 in total college debt that they owe. If you look at those few statistics, it is why it is important for us to get in a room and work on a compromise on school funding, because it represents over 50% of every property tax bill in this state. What our caucus has been consistent on is we want to equalize the funding, but we want to make sure that it is done in a rational and a fair way with all of us at the table. And an opportunity to do that, we welcome. But we have been consistently trying to work on this issue, not just for weeks or months, but for a number of years. And it has started with the underfunding of public education under this administration. The governor said in his own words, raiding surplus accounts from school districts across the state. It is interesting that part of the strain on school funding has been our need to fund the pension. It is not a secret that New Jersey has had a record number of 10 downgrades under this administration. And a lot of that has been tied to our failure to adequately fund the pension and maintain adequate surpluses. The inability to fund the pension, in large part, is by our stress to maintain and keep up with the property tax burden in the state and neighboring states, where New Jersey's effective property tax rate is the highest in the region. If we have an interesting proposal, which we heard about for the first time today, that, according to the governor, would inject $13 billion of direct reduction of deficit in that pension, equating to roughly 15%, it is an idea that we would be interested in entertaining. Our concern is, hearing this for the first time, it creates a $900 to $1 billion hole from the revenue from the lottery that currently comes to our budget. And I will only speak for myself. We haven't had a chance to talk about this in any detail. Some of the things that those lottery dollars fund that I know are important to myself, and in our previous year's conversation with our leadership team and our caucus, things like tuition assistance grants, TAG. Funding for the New Jersey County College Stars program, which, when you have 66% of students graduating with over $31,000 in student loan debt, the County College Stars program is a very real and serious relief for many people. It funds housing for our disabled soldiers. It funds housing for our developmentally disabled. And these numbers equate up to $900 to $1 billion. So it is a worthy discussion. There are not many silver bullets that will reduce that pension obligation by 15%. It brings the overall pension number that we have to fund annually down by $900 million. But I know that our residents, our constituents, will have concerns on how do we handle the other side of the ledger of obligations for people that have paid their debt to society, or people that we want to keep in New Jersey to help our economy grow. Thank you very much.
I'll bring up Gary Schaer, the budget chairman, since this is a budget year.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. The governor's remarks obviously were self-evident in any number of areas. As the majority leader and the speaker said, we are unclear about the proposal for Blue Cross Blue Shield. It appears that the $300 million that the governor is alluding to is not in fact a budget item, but we are unclear of the item in its totality, especially given the fact that 10 years ago such an attempt was met with court denial. Number two, in terms of the lottery, certainly any infusion into the lottery offers advantages and potential disadvantages as well. The question, of course, is what happens to the annual requirements. As the majority leader said, the annual $800 to $900 million requirement that statutorily must be given. So again, more questions than answers, as one would assume. And as the governor also spoke about the school funding formula, that in 10 days it was a disaster. 100 days would make it perfect. The governor obviously works by a calendar that few of us have the ability to do. We can't forget the backdrop, however, of the speech. And although one applauds the governor for any number of areas of his work and efforts over the past 7+ years, there remains no doubt to so many New Jersey families that New Jersey is worst in the nation when it comes to foreclosures. It is also of not new information to any of us that New Jersey is amongst the worst 3 states in terms of its funding of higher education. Job growth compared to the region has been and remains anemic. Our structural deficit, which the governor claimed that he satisfied when he first came to office, in fact currently stands at $8 billion. Our debt is significantly higher than it ever has been before. When I had the pleasure to take office approximately 11 years ago, the debt service was $3.4 billion. We are now in excess of $4.7 billion in terms of that debt, not to mention the creditworthiness of the state having been declined 10 times. Spending is at its highest level in New Jersey's history. When the governor first took office, our spending was $8 billion less than what it is today. So under a conservative administration, the budget is up $8 billion, which is obviously a significant factor. The Budget Committee, under the Speaker's leadership, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, looks forward to investigating these areas with the governor and with the various commissioners that he has appointed. We look forward to getting clarity and to getting some answers. I will admit to you that at this point there seem to be more questions than there seem to be answers so far, but we look forward to that clarity. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm going to keep my remarks rather lightly. This is 25 years of listening to budgets, and I must say, this one here has been the most depressing. I like to feel after 25 years that we would be moving in the direction where we're improving the quality of life for the people here in New Jersey. When I hear all of the creative ways that the governor wants to balance the budget, he wants to move us in the right direction. This time next year, when we come back, we're going to be in worse condition than we ever have been in the last 25 years. Just yesterday, I had a hearing in housing. It was amazing when I asked the question in terms of, is it just in urban communities where we have seniors can no longer live? No, it's all over the state of New Jersey. In fact, I met with some people in Somerset County, one of the richest counties in the state of New Jersey. We got seniors that feel they cannot live in their homes any longer. I didn't hear the governor talk anything at all about it. We talk about school funding. I was waiting for him to say we need to put more in the suburban and less in the urban. So these are the things that I feel that when he talks about his approach to this budget, and we talk about serious dollars, over and over again, I'll be the first one that say to the world, I'm so happy that we want to cure people from drugs. But yet and still, I didn't hear him talk about $1 he wanted to spend stopping drugs from coming here in the state of New Jersey, including the doctors who basically give out false prescriptions for the individuals who have actually not only caused hardship for families, but our urban communities. I didn't hear anybody talk about what we're going to do in order to make sure that we stop that particular crime. Curing is beautiful, but the reality, we have to clean up New Jersey and its drug problems. So again, I think the Speaker has moved in the right direction. Finance Chairman, I know he's going to do a great job, but he's just laid out so much without telling us where this money's going to come from. And next year, we're the ones going to have to foot the bill. Because at the end of the day, it's nice to say what we need to do, but you got to pay for it. Maybe I sound like a Republican, which I'm not, but the reality, I believe in paying my bills, and you haven't shown me a way of paying those bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to say thank you to the Speaker, to our team here, the Budget Chair, Majority Leader, Speaker Pro Tem, I'm actually thankful that the governor at least recognized the hard work that we've put in during his tenure to combat a number of the problems that we still have. But we still face a grave issue of charity care funding for our hospitals, where we're looking at a national issue with the repeal of the Affordable Care Act that could have a grave impact of over or close to 1 million people in the state of New Jersey. If we state, and we've done a yeoman's job of meeting the task of coming up with legislation for the governor to put on his desk to combat opioids and addictions in our state, but that all gets rolled back if there's no dollars, there's no expanded Medicaid to pay for those services. Our providers, there's not enough of us in the state to actually provide the services. So if we're going to invest, we need to make sure that the dollars are there. We also have an issue with lead. We have not remediated that problem yet, and when Chairman Green of Housing mentions that there's a housing stock issue and foreclosures high in our state, we also need to look at remediation of those properties. We are property rich in our state, and if we're not doing something with the housing stock to make sure that our seniors or our middle-aged folks like myself included can stay in our homes and raise our families and send them to college at an affordable rate, then we're doing a disservice. So there's more work to be done. I know we're committed as a leadership team to continue to do the work. We won't take anything at face value or sound bites. We'll dig in as we always do. We'll keep our hands to the plow, and we'll continue to work for the state of New Jersey. Thank you.